Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime, bringing you my review for Eden Zero, Chapter 107. And for as simple as this chapter was, I feel Eden Zero's greatest strengths are basically on pretty much full display with this chapter as well. As as the way Mashima's as well as Mashima's writing. Um, because he's not only giving us these fantastical worlds to explore, but he's also allowing time for us to just soak in the atmosphere and the vast size and just beauty, majesty, whatever you want to call it, of whatever planet our heroes are on at the time. Even when they're just doing something as mundane as hanging out on the beach or doing a little undersea diving, it still opens up the greater exploration possibilities of this world of this world, and so specifically in this case, Red Cave, which also leads to another thing that Mashima I feel is really like stretching his wings on with this chapter and really mastered with this series in particular is that just how endlessly layered his worlds in this series are. I mean, we've already got Red Cave being, we already saw like Red Cave being transformed into an ocean world, but now to further discover that there's light, pretty much light ether raining on the planet, as well as the equivalent of Atlantis under the oceans of the planet, just open up the mystery of Red Cave even more, and just the possibilities, including just the possibilities of what the of just of what we can of what can be done with this world now. Um, Also, just the amount of, and honestly, just even on the smallest of note, the amount of detail and design work that went into visually showing us all this is something I cannot give Mashima I cannot give Mashima enough credit for. Like there's way too much credit I can give Mashima for this right now. This was just one of those chapters that, like, there are so many moments and so many scenes in this chapter that just visually suck you in, and Mashima is just the amount of detail and design work that Mashima went into crafting this chapter is just kind of insane on its own. Like, there's just so much with this chapter that was done with this chapter that just made me say honestly just the possibilities of what we can do with basically Red Cave right now are endless. So yeah, it's like I just gotta give a full on clap to Mashima for this chapter, honestly. Um, of course, with the discovery of this undersea city as well, we basically also get the reveal that it shares a connection to Mother. And it's a small moment that really doesn't that right now really doesn't say anything until it's probably going to be explored and explained further on. But it's in that very small moment that it's just a very small moment that just without needing much to say also further explores the mythos of who Mother is without even needing to say anything, because the visual in itself shows just how much that Mother was, and to a degree still is in a lot of ways, revered as a god. Of course, if we can also believe the implications of this reveal, like any deity, well, pretty much Mother is also capable of both great creation and great destruction. So now we more than likely can assume that what happened to Red Cave is possibly tied to Mother in some way, and even beyond that, this actually weirdly, even though Mother probably is the source of what happened to Red Cave, this also puts Poseidon Nero even more in the spotlight now in terms of his identity, because even though we haven't gotten any actual anything that may link him to what happened to Red Cave or to Mother right now, everything that's been built upon in this chapter, and honestly, and the last chapter as well, there's little details about these two chapters that really kind of point to him at the center of this. It doesn't really matter what that connection between the two actually is. There's it remains whatever the connection may be, that's the part that remains to be seen. But there is something going on. There is some kind of connection right now between Mother and Poseidon Nero. I think just based off the information we have. Um, and honestly, I am just I'm whatever form that takes. I'm all for anything that pretty much dives into the exploration of who Mother is because I think one thing we I think we got so wrapped up into the hype of Ziggy being a villain now that I think one thing we kind of have to remember right now is that Ziggy is the end boss, but Mother is still the end goal. And I love how Mashima keeps building upon who she is. The further we basically go on with this story, so that when our heroes will pretty much end up reaching Mother, they'll I think that they themselves will have developed enough in order to form their own like vastly different answer of what they actually want from Mother in well, at least compared to what they initially wanted from Mother to begin with. Like I think over time and the more we explore Mother going forward, I think the more our heroes are going to come up with different our heroes like desires of what they want from Mother are going to be vastly different when they reach the end compared to how they started out, how their initial desires started out and what they wanted from Mother. So yeah, I think that's one thing we can definitely expect, at least from this exploration of who Mother is. Um, the interesting thing about this chapter is that it was largely our now the interesting thing about this chapter is while it was largely our heroes hanging out and interacting, there was a point where Mashima, through Hermit, made sure to draw attention to the fact that even though the planet is now covered in water, the temperature in itself is still very high. So I wonder if that's Mashima's way of hinting at a means to return the planet back to normal, which I'm sure is going to be something that's going to be needed once shit starts really hitting the fan. Like if Poseidon Nero is connected in basically any way to is in any way connected to what's going on Red Cave, then I think that they're definitely going to need a way in order to battle him, and one way to do that would probably be to basically return the planet to how it was initially. So yeah, I think that's kind of Mashima's way of hinting at a way in which to possibly defeat well Poseidon Nero if our heroes end up ever coming into contact with him in this arc, or even for that matter, or honestly, any kind of villain, any kind of villain that they end up coming across in this arc, if they do end up doing that. Um, now, now one thing I definitely want to know is how the dead astronaut is gonna tie into everything we've seen thus far, because while I'm sure he's gonna have a purpose, as of right now, it seems like the plot thread that's tied the least into everything going on with our heroes is that dead astronaut. Like I'm not gonna say the dead astronaut is pointless to the overall story either, but for me right now he's just one of the more loose plot threads until we end up getting more into the origins of where the hell he came from. Anything I'm imagining but if anything, I'm imagining it is going to tie back into the concepts of time that Mashima was exploring with Eden Zero as well. And going off of that, my best guess, just based on the fact that he's been dead for a long time, um, kind of almost makes me wonder if this dead astronaut is in some way going to tie back to that that basically one scene we saw very early on in the series where where we see where we supposedly see the Eden Zero like aimlessly drifting in space, and that hand holding up a B cube. Like, and anyone who's been paying attention to Eden Zero will basically know the scene I'm talking about. Like, it's that scene that heavily implied that the Eden Zero crew in the future is going to die. But so I wonder if that dead astronaut is going to in some way tie to basically that scene or something like that. That's my best guess on this. And since overall this is what we could call the gratuitous beach chapter, we got we basically got that typical Mashima fan service. But the only, and don't get me wrong, I love Mashima's fan service, but the only question I have is, did Mashima really feel it was necessary to give us that lolly ass shot of Hermit? Like, I'm not judging. I'm just saying like all the other like all the other like gratuitous fan servicey shots are fine, but that one I was thinking you're entering some dangerous territory there, Mashima. Just saying. But yeah. Uh, but yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you've enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and that's your Crunchyroll. That night of me, signing off. Later, guys.